Blog Talk Radio.
Hi, and welcome to Conscious Talk Radio, and I'm your host, Linda Summers, and we've got an amazing show for you tonight. Our topic is how to ascend to consciousness, and our guest is unidentified as he is a public figure. And so, with that, I'd like to bring you on board. Hello.
Thank you so much, Linda.
Thank you for joining us. And, this is kind of I think there's a lot of misconception out there about ascension, about consciousness. And you and I have had really interesting conversations around that. And so I'd kind of like to talk about that, of how to, because I think people ascending, they think they're going somewhere, right? And to this consciousness that they're going to this place. So I think with you having experiences that you have had in tapping into what you call the truth, which is the consciousness, which is God, really, right? Mm-hmm. That shows that you've tapped into that. So I think, because, we're going to evolve somewhere with these conversations, and, we talked about a group and things like that. So, but for right now, I'd like to really kind of have this conversation around ascension, how you can define that from your perspective, and then also consciousness, and what that means for people, how can we get to, how can we get there, which I know there's no place to go, but people that are listening may not know that. Oh, and let me just say that anybody that, I apologize, anybody that would like to call in and have a question or just want to make a comment, please call 347-850-8423. Okay, let's go.
Well, ascension to me is both something to confuse yourself and something that you don't want to get. So what I mean by that is there's nothing to ascend to. I mean, you're already there. You're already an element. You already exist. I mean, there isn't really much more needed than that. It's more to let go of your sense of self. And you can't let go of your sense of self. So I'm not saying that it's always a matter of denial to say ascension. I'm just saying that it fits into that very well, because you can always look at it as something that you're not. But the truth is, you don't want to look at something as it's not, because that will just take you somewhere where you're not trying to go. And there's no necessary need for that. You are what you are. And that's available to you if you learn that relationship. If you stop telling the truth what it is and you allow the truth to tell you what it is, within that you're listening and you're making yourself worthy. And the only thing that worthy means for me is that you aren't there in a way. It's more feeling into the atmosphere and not stilling your mind not to play the stories. Ascension, consciousness in like the grander scheme would really be a unifying experience. It's an interconnected state. So once again, full consciousness of what you are isn't probably something that you are that you would allow, because it would stop you from being yourself. So consciousness is in its best, once again, allowing God to direct you, feeling and living your life in such a way as that you're directed outside and in the experience and outside and the feeling of outside, that which is of God. And once again, God isn't, an old man with a beard. God is, the universal order and the workings of the universe. Is just, I want to anthropomorphize that into an old man with a white beard. Right. So ask away. I know that was a mouthful.
Right. So would you say, because you're saying ascension is having to lose your identity, and that's something that we wouldn't want to do, where I would think that ascension is in raising a vibration of your own consciousness, your own thoughts, which is a part of the universe, which is a part of God, spirit, however people want to direct that to, right?
Well, I wasn't saying ascension is losing your sense of self. Ascension is connecting God. But what I meant by that, and I can see how you got that, was that in a way it's the word that's a trick. The experience is real, but the word is a trick because it has connotations of ascending into something greater. But there is nothing to ascend into that you aren't already. You know what I mean? It's more of because when I say you lose yourself, you can't really lose yourself. What you can do is, instead of constantly talking over the environment, which really is, not plausible in the long run, is that you spend some time not talking over the environment. And not only do you spend some time not talking over the environment, not telling stories about the environment, the conversation here, how the chair looks in the corner of your room, oh my God, look at those little porcelain dolls, they're so cute. You just look, you just feel the porcelain dolls. You sense the state of the porcelain dolls, and that's ascension.
Interesting. See, I would never have thought of that as being ascension. My thought process was of ascending. It's in the vibration of your thoughts, of going from a third-dimensional thought of duality, that's a positive thing, that's a negative thing, as opposed to there really is no positive or negative. There's just experience we bring to that experience that can shift that in.
Yeah. I mean, the negative is just paying attention so much to your belief systems and so much to your stories that you become disconnected from everyone and everything, and most importantly, God. So whenever we say, I will do this, or there's a reference point to what you will do, that won't really get you anywhere. And if you, if you practice in experiencing objects and experiencing people and experiencing God will then give back to you. And at that point where you are worthy, and once again I define worthy as not making it of your identity, not directing it through your identity, but directing it through just sensation in the external world, and everything that's in the external world, right? Because if we're looking for God, it's in the here and now. It sits by your feet. It's there with you when you sleep. It's there when you hurt someone. It's there when you help someone. So it's just a matter of experiencing it, but the experience of it is a sensation. And what I've experienced is when you tune into that little, what I would call synchronicities, and there's a whole conversation of that, happen more and more and more and more and more, and they can get grander and grander and grander as you're ready to accept them to do so, because it's hard to know what limitations God would have. And I know things for me have been, dramatic for me, but I have to assume it's a small quantity. I don't really know what's possible. I don't know if I were to really have true faith, which it's still the same statement. I mean, true faith is getting somewhere that you don't know how to get, and getting somewhere that you don't know how to get means I'm not going to look at my belief systems. I'm not going to look at my fear. I'm not going to look at I can't do this. You just have complete faith that it's going to happen, and that is a godly state. Doesn't mean it's solely the possession of Christianity, which unfortunately sometimes I think Christianity has usurped the word faith, and faith is probably one of the most important things in these conversations. You have to have faith that it's there. If you don't, you have a belief system that says it's not there, and you have a story, and that's difficult if you can't recognize it.
So what you're saying is faith is, because I think this is really important, faith is in the not knowing, is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, which is really key.
It's not only
Go ahead. Yeah. Well, I mean, I just was going to say
I said, go ahead, and I talk over you. But it's not only in the not knowing; it's in the knowing as well. Do you know what I mean? It's not only in the not knowing; it's the knowing too.
Well, because the knowing you know. Yes, but it's a knowing that you know, having the faith of not knowing. Then yes, it would make sense. So there still is a knowingness within that resides within you, but faith is letting go of not knowing what's going to happen or what you're going to get your next meal or your whatever, home or food or whatever that may be.
Exactly. And just to make it worse, that knowing, and when we talk about knowing, we're talking about that interconnected nature of all things that will talk to you. At least it does with me. And I know with you, I think we've had you experience some of that stuff, although the last one, I don't know if you're ready to process, right? And that knowing, and I'm going to use strong language because I'm colorful, that knowing is abhorrent of its knowledge. Well, no, let me say that way. Let me say that another way. That knowing, no, sorry. That identity that you are is abhorrent of the knowledge of the knowing, because you want to be what you are, and you will never get over that. You will never become something that you aren't. You will always be what you are. But what you have to understand is that doesn't matter, because what you are is that knowing. Your statements, your beliefs, they're useless. What is real is God, and everyone knows that. If you're depressed, you wake up in the morning, you look in the mirror and you start crying. How can I continue, right? Why is this happening to me? Blah, blah, blah. How do I get out of this? This has got to stop. When will this stop, right? And maybe you come up with some ideas, and maybe you don't. And then another day, you wake up and you look in the mirror and you go, oh, do you know what I mean? You don't think about it. It's just one day you look in the mirror and you see something you like. But really, you're ready to see something you like. It's not that you're ready to see something you like because you like that thought. It's because you know, and you know to experience that, and then it happens.
That's interesting.
Does that make sense?
So, yeah.
I mean, it's a difficult thing to do, and your identity will try to stop you from doing it to some extent, and I don't know to what extent that is. But even that thing that will stop you, that's God. The idea is not to be resistant of the resistance. The idea is to be in knowledge of the resistance and in acceptance of it, and therefore it has a different relationship with you, because that resistance it's one of the first doors to letting God in. You must know everything that you experience. If you don't know something that you experience, then your identity can trick you. If you allow yourself to tell yourself something that isn't real and believe it with all your might, because maybe someone will dislike you or it's wrong in society, you might not be able to know that. And if you don't know that, you can never get into the knowing. Well, it's not that you can't, but it will be limited. There's no way that you can't get into the knowing, because that's what life is. Life's true moments are in that knowing. When you're in that knowing, everything is amazing. But you can't be in that knowing in a full portion. It takes a lot of work.
How did you come into this? How did you come into this conclusion? How did you come to this conclusion? I mean, I know you've had experiences, so is that what you're basing your conclusion is the only thing I can think of.
I'm playing an old game. I'm playing an old game, and I won't say more than that, but you probably know what I mean. But I've had many moments, and I believe I've talked to God, or I've heard something in my room that seemed, it just seemed. I can't describe it. It wasn't something that you talk upon or you think upon, but it told me things that happened, and I've seen so much, and I thought, how could it be possible? But from a young age, I was interested in this. I wanted to know. And there was some trauma, and I can get into it more in my early life as associated with this, and kind of almost fight for my soul kind of thing.
Right. And so can you share what your benefit that you feel has been with this? And
my benefit?
Because there's probably a better word, but I want to say, benefit. I can't think of another word right now. But, so what would you say?
My benefit is the clarity that it allows me. And mind you, just because it allows me clarity, it doesn't allow me reason. Do you know what I mean? To know something, and know that you are what you are, meaning, I'm me, is also to know that I'm resistant to that, and therefore, just because I have probably pretty high levels of clarity and, I can sense quite a bit, and I'm saying this because of the word ascension, because to most people, ascension means perfection, and let's face it, that's not possible. Perfection isn't something for identity. Perfection is a relation and an interconnection, and in that experience and that having, I think, is one of the best things that you could have, because with it comes the possibilities of everything else. The benefits of it, and this is a lot of why I want to put together the group, is that you can open up, people listen to, the last show, by being worthy to God. And once again, I just want to state that worthy is just meaning you release what you are, leaving the knowing, and God is just what is, but it is it's anthropomorphizing an old man with a beard, because we're humans, and that old man with a beard that we identify as God in a way is a human too, but in reality God is everything. I'm sorry, I just lost the total track of my thoughts.
Well, I was saying what was the benefit, and you were sharing the benefit.
The benefit is as you get there, and as you sense the sense, what is can open for you. And while we think of things as separate and uninvolved, that's very far away from the truth. And we even know it in physical research at this point, but we can't accept what it means. But that's the experimentation that I'm after. That's the challenge that I'm after, is to bring groups of people together and teach them and teach them how to do this. But when I say teach them how to do this, all I mean, and the teaching involved, is to get them to the point where they can connect with God. Because there is no connection with me as God. That's stupid. You know what I mean? I'm an identity. But God is inherent to all of us. And the attaining, the relationship of that is amazing. And, a lot of issues there. But once again, just because you have clarity of that process and you have faith in that process and you've been rewarded with that faith because you're worthy, doesn't mean that you have really much more than clarity. It means that you know what to do, but your identity is never going to ascend to the point of perfection. I personally don't think that's real. And obviously in that statement, there's some question there, but I don't think it's real.
Well, wouldn't you say that perfection would be, if we are made in the image of God, then we are already perfect, because there's that perfect causal body of God. The consciousness is perfect. So we already are that. It's not becoming, and I agree with you, I don't think ascension is becoming anything. It's really in a vibration of being connected to this universal energy.
Yeah.
Which to me is a
benefit. I'm sorry.
Uh-huh.
Well, I say the real benefit, and this is once again kind of the objective of the group that I referenced that we haven't really talked too much about. But if you want to do it, just reach out. And I don't mean you. Obviously I mean you. I mean anyone that's listening. You'd be surprised how you could end up, in the same thing. All you need to do is call the number and but the big point, the real gift, isn't one that you experience outside of yourself. I mean, clarity and wisdom are a very valuable commodity, and that's worth a lot. But the real goal is to bring is to bring a relationship onto each other where we truly welcome each other and we truly share with each other. The pains, the goods, the bads. We are happy to see each other. War and different aspects that aren't so friendly. At that point, will become easier to work out the differences and find a happy medium so that people can appreciate each other.
Absolutely. So let me
just throw in one thing, but unsaid in that is the happiness that it would bring to your soul if you could connect with people like that. Not like people like that, like they're the people, but all of you, everyone, all of us. And you have no way of knowing what would happen. If we were all very, tied in and connected, you have no way of knowing what could happen.
Because, if we're all connecting with one another, I mean, isn't there communities that already do this now, like the indigenous people? I mean, they're all, really very connected, or tribes are very, very connected, communities, those communals. I mean,
I think that's probably more inducive, right? If you strip away all the constant imagery and information that we're taught that is not that, especially some of the marketing things. Sometimes I think about, if you constantly see some, look at that sexy woman, look at that car, that feeling I'm going to, especially that, look at that, or both of them, look at that feeling I'm going to get if I get that car. Oh my God, look at that sexual gratification if I have that woman in my life. Oh, God, I'm losing what I was saying about that. Oh, yeah. Those are all imageries. Those are all telling us what we will become if we achieve them.
Right.
But the true image that you want to receive is the archetype that bubbles up in the soul that tells you what to do. And instead of, association with, I sound so much like a Christian preacher, but instead of associating with worldly imagery to the point that it nourishes your soul into the amount that it can. And I'm not saying that it can't nourish your soul. I'm just saying imageries of God will do much better at nourishing your soul. And there's no reason that the earthly imageries wouldn't come along with that. It's all,
It's kind of like a bonus. Yeah. I almost see it as a bonus where if you have the connection with Source, God, universe, spirit, then that's the ultimate, I would think, or feel.
You can't build the roof before you build the foundation.
Right. So this is what you're saying, really, in essence, is building the foundation of having that connection, and in that connection, which is connected with everybody. So would you say is, in order to tap into that it's in the connection with a person in order to tap into that? Or would you say it's just tapping into the energy, and once you've tapped into that, then you're tapping, then to tap into another individual, once you feel the sensation of what that feels like, then you can build upon that.
It's all the same. It's all there. It's all the same thing. So
right.
It's in, it's achievable through anything, I would imagine. I don't know if inorganic material is dead or if it would matter what that death is, because, probably in other ways and other forms wasn't dead. And we can think of that, theory of relativity and stuff like that, if people are familiar with that. without getting into it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, and it would seem as though that it would be. That's why I was asking the question, are you saying that? Because it would seem as though even by connecting into another person and feeling the sensation, which I have a question to that, that you're tapping in because they are part of this consciousness, this energy.
They're also of the same species.
Yes, yes.
So you look at mammals, and people love mammals, but they don't love reptiles.
Why is that?
Because it's a similar creation in the energy, and therefore, your limited mind sometimes wants to act, unassociated, and I guess it should. If something looks different, than you do. So it's anatomical as well as it's practical.
Yeah, but you could say that with humans. If when someone's looking, say someone has a deformity, right? And you're looking at them as really being different. They're not really different other than the physicality that you could see, but it's seeing what you're saying is really seeing beyond that. You're really sensing into the consciousness of tapping into God, is what you're saying.
Yeah. I've done a lot of energy things. I've had experiences of, I had one guy that had, like I've told you, that he had HIV, and he was also about as heavy a drug user as you could get. He wasn't smoking pot. He was doing all sorts of things. But from doing those energy sessions with him, his viral count had gone away, and the doctors wanted to write him up in the books. They just couldn't understand how it was happening. He was constantly compromising his immune system with the drugs. He didn't die of HIV. He died because of his quote-unquote open policy, which means if somebody, and he was really loving. Everything was trying to get sex out of people with him, male or female, but he was really loving. And, he would have these 2 a.m. dinners, and he was quite extravagant cook. And he let people into his life that in the end literally physically just killed him, robbed him and killed him. But he didn't die of AIDS. And then, I've had other people that I've worked with that had psychosis and fibromyalgia and cancers, all sorts of things. And now that I said cancers, I didn't cure the cancers, nor did I. Well, I might have, because it shrunk. I worked with this one woman, and she had a lymphoma in her neck, and it shrunk. But anyways, the point being is, I've experienced what I've experienced, but I definitely have a limitation of thought, as far as how far I could go with that. I have a curiosity to know how far it could go, but I do have, I'm not ready to see something like that. Let's just put it that way. And that's resistance. To say that I'm not ready to see something like that doesn't mean it can happen. It doesn't mean it can happen. But at the very least, I know I don't want it to happen. And that's not necessarily a bad thing.
No, and not only that, but you recognize it's resistance, so you're not in denial of it. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. Never be in denial. That quintessential. If you want to look at humanity and you want to ask yourself what's wrong with it, I think the only reasonable answer is denial. And we can look at that on a practical level. That's the same thing I'm talking about. Identity. We deny to maintain identity and maintain a disconnection from the truth. You must be in denial of what really is, and therefore it echoes everywhere in a very painful way, in an extremely painful way. We can't stop people from being in denial. Most people don't. Well, I think everyone recognizes that everyone else is in denial, but a lot of people don't have the wisdom to recognize, well, if everyone else is in denial, you're in denial too. And I think that is where it started with me. When I realized that, and I realized that I must see beyond my denial, and I somehow acquired some process, I guess, to do so by at least some measure. Once again, I don't want to portray to anyone that I'm perfect. I'm far from perfect. I'm a mess in many ways. But I have an ability, or I have trained, my experience. I haven't trained my experience, but I think you understand what I'm saying.
So anybody that's listening, we are thinking of doing a group, some sort of a group thing, in him teaching you, and like he had mentioned, really go back and listen to the show, of connecting into God, so to speak. So if you're interested, comment. You can reach me at linda@conscioustalk.show. And, that way we can kind of start building this group if you're interested. So thank you so much for, bringing this and your ability to be able to tap in and just your own experiences through this and what it means to ascend to consciousness and wanting to do these groups and stuff. So we'll see where that goes. But, yeah, so thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you in doing the show and making the medium possible.
Well, thank you. And thank you for all of the ones who joined us today and the ones who will be joining us via YouTube. We thank you so much. Please follow, subscribe, comment, and like us. And don't forget to leave a comment below the video. I can get in touch with you if you're interested, and we'll start to work on putting a group together of people that are really interested in really connecting into, for the betterment of humanity, obviously. So we don't want to do anything that's going to be disruptive of that. But leave a comment.
If I could just throw that in, if anybody did do something that, just so people know, I wouldn't allow anything that wasn't serving discovery of the truth. So if your identity gets fixated on it, that would be something that we would back off really quickly with.
Absolutely. All right, well, thank you so much. And then you can join me this week, October 8th, for my next show, How to Increase Your Energy and Mental Focus with Robin Treasure. And we're not quite sure of our topic for Monday, so just stay tuned and to Blog Talk Radio, and you will find out the next one. So we thank you again, and thank you for sharing yourself with us tonight. We appreciate that. We'll see you next week.
Awesome.
Thanks. Bye.